Today, we're going to discuss with dealing with the viruses. The figure shows virus elimination steps that are shown in the figure. So, detection of a viruses involves locating the virus, having known that a virus has attacked, then you have to identify the specific virus that has attacked, and as finally that you have to remove it. So we need to remove all traces of the virus and then restore the affected programs or files to the original state. This can be done by using antivirus software. Antivirus software can be classified into four categories that I have shown in the diagram. The first one is the first generation, second generation, third generation, and also fourth generation. The first generation is a antivirus program that is called as a simple scanners. They needed a virus signature to identify the virus. Variation of such programs kept a watch on the length of the programs and also looked for changes so as to possibly identify the virus attack in this generation. Next one it is called as a second generation. These antivirus software programs did not rely on simple virus signatures. In this generation, these software are used heuristic tools to look for possible virus attacks. The idea was to look for code blocks that were commonly associated with these viruses. For example, encryption key is used by a virus that can be find it decrypt and it can remove the virus and it can clean the code. Another variation of this antivirus program used to store some identification about the file. For example, message digest, and also we can detect the changes in the contents of the file. Third generation's antivirus software programs were memory resident. They watched for viruses based on actions rather than their structures. It is not necessary to maintain large database of your virus signatures. Indeed, the focus is to keep watch on a small number of suspected actions. Next generation of a software it is called as a fourth generation. In the fourth generation, these are the antivirus software programs. Package may antivirus techniques together, for example, scanners, activity monitoring, etc. They also contain access control features, thus thwarting the attempts of viruses to infect the files. There is a category of a software called as a behavior blocking software, which integrates with the operating system of the computer and keeps a watch on virus like a behavior in real time. Whenever such an action is detected, this software will blocks it, preventing the damages. The actions under watch can be opening, viewing, modifying, and also deleting the files, network communications, modification of a setting such as a startup script, attempt to format disk, modification of executive files, scripting of email and instant messaging to send executable content to others. The advantage of such software programs is that they are more into virus prevention than virus detections. The viruses can stop before to damage rather than detecting them after an attack. There will be some specific attacks called as a snipping and spoofing. What is meant by snipping and what is meant by spoofing? As we know that in the internet, computer will be exchanging messages with each other in the form of blocks of data that we can call as a package. This packet as a postal envelope contains the actual data to be sent and the addressing information. The attackers will target these packets because as they travel from the source to the destination over the internet. These attacks will be taking the two main forms. One is called as a packet snipping, other one is called as a packet spoofing. Packet snipping it is also called as a snooping. The protocol used in this communication is called the Internet Protocol, and the other names of these two uh, attacks are we can call as a IP snipping and IP spoofing. We'll discuss in brief about these two attacks. So, what is meant by packet snipping? Packet snipping is a passive attack on an ongoing conversation. Here, the attacker will need to hijack a conversation instead, but he will observe the packets as they pass by from one end to the another end. To prevent an attacker from snipping packets, the information that is passing needs to be protected in some ways. So this can be done in a two levels. The first one is the data that is traveling can be encoded in some ways. Second one is the transmission link itself can be encoded. To read a packet, the attacker somehow needs to access in the first place. The simplest way to do this is to control a computer via which the traffic goes through. Routers are highly protected resources. Therefore, an attacker might not be able to attack it and instead attack a less protected computer on the same path. Next, we'll discuss packet spoofing. So, in this technique, an attacker sends packets with a false source addresses. With this happen, the receiver would inadvertently send replies back to this forged addresses that is called as a spoofed addresses and not the attacker. This can be lead to the three possible cases. The one is called as the attacker can intercept the reply. That is, attacker is in between the destination and the forged sources. The attacker can see the replay and use that information for hijacking attacks. The second one is called as the attacker need not to see the replay. If the attacker's intention was a denial of service attack, the attacker need not bother about the replay. The third one is the attacker does not want the replay. The attacker could simply be angry with the host, so it may put that host address as the forged source address and send the packet to the destination. The attacker does not want a reply from the destination as it wants the host with the forged address to receive it and get confused. Next one is called as a phishing attack. So what is meant by phishing attack? So here creating a web pages involves relatively simple technologies such as a HTML, JavaScript and a CSS. In this case, the attacker will be create our own website which looks like a identical website. For example, the attacker can clone the Citibank's website. The cloning is so clever that human eye will not be able to distinguish with the real and fake site. The attacker can use many techniques to attack the bank's customers. The attacker will be sends an email to the legitimate customer of the bank. The email itself appears to have come from the bank. The attacker exploits the email system to suggest that the sender of the email is some bank official. For example, account manager at citibank.com. This fake email warns the users that there has been some sort of attack on the Citibank's computer systems and that the bank wants to issue new passwords to all its customers and also verify their existing pins, etc. For example, for this purpose, the customer is asked to use the URL mentioned in the same email. When the customer, that is a victim, innocently clicks on the URL specified in the email, she is taken to the attacker's site and not the bank's original site. Therefore, the customer is prompted to enter confidential information such as password and the PIN. Since the attacker's fake site looks exactly like the original bank site, the customer will provide all the information. The attacker gladly accepts this information and display a thank you to the unsuspecting victim. The attacker now uses the victim password or PIN to access the bank's real site and can perform any transaction if or she is the victim. Another attack we can call as a farming. This is also called as a DNS spoofing or DNS poisoning is now called as a farming attack. As we know the domain name system, that is DNS, people can identify websites with human readable names such as www.yahoo.com, and computers can continue to treat them as a IP address such as 120.10.81.67. Several server computer called as a DNS server maintains the mappings between domain names and the corresponding IP addresses. So the DNS server could be located anywhere. Usually it is with the internet service provider of the users. So the DNS spoofing attack simply works like this. Suppose that there is a merchant whose site's domain name is www.intel.com and the IP address is 90.10.10.20. Therefore, the DNS entry for Intel in all the DNS servers is maintained as follows, like the www.intel.com and the IP address is 90.10.10.20. The attacker will manage to hack and replace the IP address of the Intel with her own in the DNS server maintained by the ISP user, say alias. Therefore, the DNS server maintained by ISP of alias now has the following entry like this: www.intel.com 90.20.20.20. Thus, the contents of hypothetical DNS table maintained by this ISP would be changed. When Alice wants to communicate with the Intel site, her web browser queries the DNS server maintained by her ISP for Intel's IP address, providing it the domain name. Alias gets this replaced by IP addresses, which is 90.20.20.20. Now, Alias starts communicating with the 2D, believing that she is communicating with the Intel company. This type of attack we can call as a farming or DNS spoofing. Thank you.